This episode is presented by Roman. Guys, let's talk real for a minute. You know how when you're wearing a great outfit, everything just looks right and your confidence is absolutely soaring? It feels like you can walk into a room knowing that you're on your A game, am I right? But hear me out. 52% of men struggle with ED of some form during their life. If this sounds like something you have faced, I really recommend dealing with it with the help of today's sponsor, Roman. So if you've been struggling with ED, don't ignore the issue. Instead, face it head on with Roman. Roman can give you that same feeling in the bedroom. Roman offers a discreet process from start to finish. Roman can connect you directly with a U.S. licensed healthcare professional for a free telehealth consultation from the privacy of your own home. The provider will find the treatment that is right for you and prescribe effective medication if it's needed. The whole process is honestly super simple. Prescription ED treatments are safe, they're effective, they're FDA approved and used by millions of men. Roman also offers free 2-day shipping and the whole process is so honestly simple. So if you think this is something that will help you, you can head on over to getroman.com/Craig to complete your free consultation and find out if this is the right treatment for you. Oh, and if you're prescribed, by using my link, you will get $15 off your first month of ED treatment, which benefits us both. So go to the link. That's getroman.com/Craig. getroman.com/Craig. So if you're like me, you dread going to car dealerships. Maybe because my first car dealership wasn't very nice. It was around my 13th birthday or so. My dad decided that he wanted to buy a Ford for my mom. The sales guy, not realizing that my dad was a New Yorker who grew up in an Italian family. You've seen Goodfellas, pick any of the characters, he was all of them. We were only halfway up the driveway and we got accosted by a salesperson. So just pounce on you, right? He looks to my dad and he says, "You looking for a car, sir?" My dad says, "Nope, I'm looking for the subway. What do you think I'm doing here?" Right away, the salesman knew this was going to be a hard sale, but he did pick up on my dad's sarcasm. And I thought what the worst of it was behind us, but nope. There was more to come. The guy says to my dad, "Do you have an idea what you're looking for?" "Yeah, a blonde about this tall with a big set of hands." "Yeah." "No, actually, I'm looking for a 4-door, maybe a station wagon." "Oh yeah, my dad's quite the playboy, right?" So the sales guy then chimes in with this. "Okay, how much do you want to spend?" "How much do I want to spend? How much do I want to spend?" "I want to spend $1. $1. "Sir, we don't have any cars for $1. "Of course you don't. It's a ridiculous question, so I gave you a ridiculous answer. It was going to be a long day. What the guy probably should have said, "So what kind of budget range are you trying to stay in?" That kind of thing. And that would have been a better transaction, I think. The whole experience, though, struck me, even at that young age, as adversarial and confrontational. You can get a dick of a customer or a dick of a salesperson. The salespeople work on commission. They have the right to hustle to make the transaction as profitable for them and the dealership for which they work, right? And I'm sure my dad understood this, but he was going to deny him that privilege.
How about new?
Many dealerships, though, are still using the 4-square deal sheet, okay? This sheet harkens back to at least the 1950s. I've seen it in movies. Its sole purpose is to get you to focus on the lowest number on the page to mitigate the damage in your brain, right? And that's the monthly payment. If I can get the payments down to this, it doesn't matter what the price of the car is, right? Meanwhile, each of the other squares are padded with profits for the dealership. Make no mistake, that's what's going on. Some dealers charge you for things that should probably be in the car from the factory. Floor mats are a perfect example. Actually had that debate with a Nissan dealer saying your Nissan Maxima SE doesn't come with floor mats. I bet they do 8 miles down the road at the other dealership, and I left and bought that from the other guy. Other dealers tack on options to cars that can't be removed. I'll talk about this later. Things like low jack. "Oh, it's already in the car. Too bad. You can't take it off. Blah, 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 blah." And it's $1,500 extra. Meanwhile, online it's $750, but screw you. Paint sealant was another one, which is the oldest bull. Just going back to the days when I sold cars. It's called clear coat, people, and it's part of every manufacturer's painting process and has been for decades. In my days of selling cars, it was nothing more than a allegedly Teflon infused car wax going by any number of names like Polyglycoat or Duroshine and all that kind of stuff, and they would charge $250 to $400 for basically what was a over-glorified turtle wax, really, if I'm being honest. But the back and the forth negotiation is a joke. Why does it have to be this hard? It's like a Persian rug salesman. The stupid stupid fees that they tack onto cars should be illegal. And in fact, I think there are a few that actually are sometimes. I'm sure many of you have had similar experiences and you hate going to the dealership. As you remember, in previous videos, I've mentioned that I've owned about 40 cars in my lifetime. But about looking back at my history, about half of them were new. The rest were the collectible cars that I bought from private parties and so forth and whatnot. But as a consumer, myself, from buying at car dealers, my experiences have been mixed. One Mercedes dealership was good, one was weak. Having purchased several Lexuses, I can tell you that the 4 dealers with which I dealt were all top notch. I had never had a bad situation at a Lexus dealer. At my local Audi dealer where I bought my RS4, I was quite pleased. No hassle, no nonsense, anything. Out of the 3 local Nissan dealerships with which I've done business, only one has impressed me. Overall though, some dealerships, if I would put it all in a bundle, some experiences were pretty good, a few were not all that great, and 1 or 2 really subpar, and a few were actually pretty nice. But I've also had the opportunity to see the inner workings of car dealerships over the years. First, way back when I was 22 and still in school, I was selling cars at a Hyundai dealership in the Santa Clarita Valley in Southern California. This was during the midst of the Honda Accord kickback scandal. I'll do a video on that at another time. But I got a brief glimpse of the shady stuff that goes on at some car dealerships, and I assumed at the time that that was an aberration, but it turns out it's not. But the story goes, sales for Hyundais at that time were very robust because Honda Accords were triple the price of our cars. Hyundai sedans were selling like hotcakes because they were much cheaper, and to the average person, they didn't really know the difference. And since the Honda cars were triple the money, we could charge more for our cars because the overall invoice was way less expensive, even if we jacked up the price a few $100. And the sales manager and GSM both knew that, and you can imagine what they were doing. But I did that for about 10 months and I left, mainly because I was living in a small town and I knew a lot of these people or dated some of their daughters or whatever, and I felt like some of these people were being taken advantage of. I was very young, you have to understand, but I just couldn't be a part of that, so I knew that career would never be for me. But many years later, in 2011, I was hired as a subcontractor to service a J.D. Power CSI dealership audit. My job was to visit BMW, Mini, Lexus, Chrysler, and Ford dealerships all over the country to review these dealers' sales and service processes. I visited more than 100 dealerships over a 3-year period, looking at how customers are treated and why customers rate some of these dealers really bad and some of them really good. And as you'd expect, some dealers were pretty good, a few were excellent, and some were still selling cars the old-fashioned way. Their consumer satisfaction scores were very, very low. My experience auditing car dealerships brought back some bad memories for me and brought up on one big question. Aren't car dealerships obsolete at this point? Do they really add any value to the sale? It seems like they are hell-bent at making as much money as possible at our expense. Are they even necessary? Why can't we just place an order online, arrange the financing, and take delivery at a designated facility, a nice showroom where people come out and bring you drinks and cheese and wine and all that kind of stuff? But why, after more than 80 years of buying through car dealerships, are we still stuck with slimy car dealerships? Especially now that we're living in the internet world, right? And as Tesla has proved, delivery experiences are much better when a salesman is not a part of it. So they're obsolete, right? They gotta be. Why do we still need them? Turns out that there are several good reasons why car dealerships still exist and why we still need them. For starters, car dealerships are protected by law. What? What the? Most people don't know that. Consumers cannot just buy a car directly from the manufacturer. You can't do it. And you can thank lobbyists who generously contributed to politicians' campaigns to ensure that legislation protects this structure. This is another reason why we need to end lobbying, super PACs, political contributions, and start pushing for term limits in politics. The whole system is corrupt and it's a pile of crap. As a result of bribes, lobbying and campaign contributions, there are state laws in place in pretty much every state, and the Federal Trade Commission, called the FTC, has made it illegal for a consumer to purchase a vehicle directly from the manufacturer. Okay? It can't be done. But in fairness, if you look back, way back in history, this regulation was written with the best intentions, and for some time it actually worked properly. However, these days, it allows auto dealers to charge higher and higher prices and negotiate worse deals for individuals purchasing either new cars or used vehicles. So like everything else, when the government touches it, sooner or later people find a workaround, and here we are right back where we were. These protections took on different forms, including things like disbarring manufacturers from selling vehicles themselves, limiting encroachment by manufacturer-connected dealerships being positioned in the same region as a privately owned dealership to protect that market, and things like vehicle sales regulations and so forth. But when these regulations were formed, they solved a very real problem, and they seemed like a good idea because auto manufacturers were the only outlet for purchasing these vehicles, and that effectively created a monopoly, and it was very, very bad for consumers. And before long, manufacturers were combining into fewer and fewer massive corporations. They were able to raise prices however they saw fit and exert pressures on the remaining dealerships. In response, the states passed the laws protecting new and used car dealerships from predatory manufacturer practices, and here we are. And then over the years, more consumer-friendly laws were created, which were actually helpful. Today, the federal law in the United States provides protections to car buyers in the form of car dealership regulations, which weren't regulated very much back in the day. Things like the Lemon Laws, the used car rule, and the car dealership contract law stipulations. All of those things were very necessary and have helped. But we have to realize that by having a network of auto dealers, it is better than being restricted to buying cars only from the manufacturers, which again would be a monopoly, and that would be even worse. Like it or not, car dealerships provide competition in the market. If there's one BMW dealer over here who's an asshole, you can go down the street to the other BMW dealer. More competition equals better prices for consumers. Let us not forget, America was built on a free market economy. It's called capitalism, where everybody can succeed. So competition rules the day. You don't like one dealer, he's charging too much money, maybe try another one. So if you're getting the picture that it would be worse if car manufacturers had been allowed to continue merging and monopolizing both production and distribution, you're going to start to see where I'm going. Basically, this is economics 101, supply and demand. If you can only buy a product from one source, that entity can charge whatever they want. So what do you do when you want to skip all the slimy sales guys who practically tackle you the minute you walk into the dealership? Well, another option is to go through an auto broker services. There are plenty of good ones around in the United States who find the car that you want, negotiate the price for you, and you just write a check. And I've done business with a few of them. However, if you really can't stop yourself going to a car dealer, here are my tips on how to get the best deal. Number one, do your research well in advance, well before you go to the dealer. Research the make, the model, the trim levels, what comes with that trim level, options, and so forth, and make sure you know what these cars are selling for and being advertised for at other dealerships in your area. Note, you need to know if the car that you want is a fast seller or if these cars are sitting on the lot for 60 days or more. You need to research the car and the market conditions. If these cars are flying off the shelf like hotcakes, then you're not going to get a good deal because somebody else will buy it for that price. Number two, when you get to the dealer, be sure to test drive the car. After the test drive, what I do is I tell my sales guy, here's my contact information. I'm gonna go have lunch, take a break, and to objectively evaluate the car. Is it really the right car for me? I want to take the emotion out of the thought process. It smells good, it handles cool, it feels cool in my hand. Like that. Those are emotional decisions, they're not rational decisions. Number three, when you've decided that this is the car for you, you still need to shop around, but you have to compare apples to apples. The trim levels and options need to be identical from one dealer or another. You also need to examine the rebate offers that are put in these ads to make sure that you qualify for any of the rebates that dealers have tangled in front of you. Because if the rebate doesn't apply to you, then the price is higher, right? Number four, always negotiate from a position of strength. Don't put yourself in a position where you have to buy a car that day. Know what dealers have advertised their car for. And if you roll into a dealership with a car that is on its last legs, then you're really not in a position to be negotiating. Number five, don't throw out the first number. Make them tell you what they're asking for the car. Tell the salesman that you're a cash buyer. Then negotiate a clean deal based solely on the price of the car. Even if you decide later that you're going to finance it with them or trade in a car, don't mention that until you get that final price and then say something like, hey, I got to go to family dinner. I didn't know it was going to take this much time. I'm going to think about it, come back, and again, here's my contact info, and I'll call you first thing in the morning. Number six, when I have a situation where I have a trade-in, this is what I do. I research private party sales and dealer sales of the same car like I was alluding to earlier. For example, if I were to trade in my wife's 2017 Audi S3, I'd look online to see what other dealers are selling that car in the similar condition, same miles, that kind of thing. Then I'd go to CarMax probably and have them make an offer. Or I would do it online and see what these brokers are offering me for these cars. Whatever you do, do not go to the dealer and tell them that you would trade in your car. If you do, the deal gets much more complicated and you almost always end up losing. What they're gonna do is they're gonna shortchange you on your trade to make up for any discount that they give you on the new car. I always keep my deals clean. This is one transaction, this is another transaction. You can't do both at the dealership, okay? But if you really can't avoid having to trade in your car, save that discussion until you have the price of the new car locked in. If you're back in this corner, take a look at the lot to see if the dealer has a car similar to yours, like you're trading in a 335 and they're giving you 17.5, but there's another one on the lot for 20 grand. You get more money. You should get about 18.5 or something like that. So at least you get another $1,000, right? It's almost always better to go online and get an offer to sell to a private buyer. You can do that on forums and through brokers and all kinds of stuff. Number 7. Fees. You know the deal is going your way when you get into the F&I office and they start tacking on insane fees. Things like the regional advertising fee. This fee is actually built into the invoice to the dealer and it's not your responsibility. Why not? Because the BMW is basically running commercials in that area and then they're charging all of the dealers for a portion of the advertising, right? So that stuff is they have to pay that anyway, whether they sell the car or not. So it's not your responsibility. They're trying to tack it onto you. It's bullshit.
Bullshit, man.
Then comes the endless list of dealer add-ons, things like running boards, door edge guards, nitrogen in the tires, and paint sealants, and things like dent and ding warranty, low jack, extended warranties. You didn't ask for any of these things. You didn't order any of these things, so you're not paying for them. And if they insist these things packages already installed on your vehicle, say, I don't want it. I'm done.
Just say no.
You didn't tell me that. It's not on that sheet. It's not on the window sticker. I'm not doing it. Let's be honest. Today, a low jack can pretty much replaced by an air tag. Extended warranties? No way. There's so much fine print. You need a lawyer to sort it out. And if you're thinking of modding your car in any way, they will certainly try to deny every kind of warranty coverage for an extended warranty. Let's be honest. Most people are only keeping cars for four years, 50,000 miles or something like that. If you're buying an extended warranty on a lease car, you're an idiot. Don't do it. Most cars come with warranties that are like 4 years, 48,000, 5 years, 60,000 miles, that kind of thing. Generally speaking, I would not touch any of those extended warranty packages at all. It only adds $10 to the monthly car payment. Yeah, but calculate it over the life of the loan, right? And it's not $10 anymore. It's way more than that. But I just stay away from extended warranties, and I advise you to do the same. If you, some of these cars like Hyundais, you can opt from the dealer from a 10-year warranty, that kind of thing. But that's a whole different discussion. Transportation fees, nonsense. They have to get the cars to the lot anyway, even if they don't sell it and they wind up trading it. Transportation fees, that's the cost of doing business. Do you go to a grocery store and bring your milk up there and they scan it, say it's $4.99 plus $1.25 transportation fee? What would you do? You'd lose your That's their responsibility. The one time you can be asked to pay for transportation fees, if you found a car that you like, but it's not at this dealer, but your dealer is willing to trade to that dealer to get that car here to your dealer, then you're going to probably pay a transportation fee. Sometimes it's $250, it could be $500. That's a legitimate charge, and they have every right to ask for that. So I'm surprised they don't charge a concrete fee for having pavement in the parking lot. Last but not least, when it comes to financing, I strongly suggest you go through your credit union or have your financing set up before you walk into the dealer. Here's why. Because the dealer, when you get into the F&I office, they're going to look at your credit, and they're not going to not offer you the best possible interest rate. They may offer you a high rate like 14.9%, but the dealer is really getting the loan at 9.9% and making a kickback of the 5 extra points of interest. So ask them if they try to do that. Is this the buy rate, which means the actual price the dealer paid for the loan, or the markup rate? And no matter what they say, you want to see the paperwork for the loan to see what they paid. And if they're not willing to do that and they make up excuse, say, nope, none of that, just hold the paperwork, I'm going to go get my own financing and walk out. And like I said, it's better to negotiate the cash deal at the front of the sale. It's like we're just going to pay cash for it, and then at the last minute you decide to buy the car through financing, and hopefully, like I said, you should have the financing in place and ready to go. One thing I want to talk about is for my younger audience is people are just getting started off in life. You don't have great credit in that thing. You haven't had a chance to build up your credit and so forth. But I want to mention this. If you go into a car dealership with a beat up junker and it's not registered, it's got damage on it, all that kind of stuff, it's got mechanical problems out, you're not going to get much for it, and maybe you're even upside down on the loan. And I'm going to say this like I told my son years ago. If you go into a car dealer and trade in a car that on paper, Kelley Blue Books values it at $9,000 and you owe $16,000 on that car, they're going to finance that that shortage into the new loan. So not only are you paying $40,000 for the car you just bought, you're financing at even a higher interest rate the extra $6,000 or $7,000 that you have left over on this loan, which is going to make your payment insane. That is a horrible financial decision, horrible. And if you do that, man, you're going to be upside down for years and years. So it's going to be horrible. And then what happened with the car that you just bought? You decide to get rid of that, you keep the cycle going, or that car blows up and you can't even use it anymore because you drove it 100,000 miles and it's too expensive to fix. You're screwed all the way around. I understand that dealers are in business to make a profit. Everybody is, and some resort to some tactics we might not approve of, but most are actually acting within the law. So this is why it's helpful to be armed with information. They're good dealers, there are bad dealers, good salespersons, shady salespersons, and you just got to live with some of this stuff. Or don't forget, you can choose to walk away. But my objection to car dealers is that they add little value to the sale, right? BMW dealers seem to have it down. They have a second delivery specialist called a Genius. It's a specialist who goes to your office or to your home and trains you on how to use all the cool gadgets on these particular vehicles, and it's a good experience for the buyers, the consumers. This is added value, and I'm all for that. But if I'm honest, I'd still like to just order my car online, have it delivered to a showroom where I get a white glove delivery service and the salesperson is nowhere to be found. That transaction is done. I just want the experience now. But for now, we have to remember that the alternative is too horrible to think about, buying cars from factories with no negotiation. That would be bad for everybody. So when will it change? Will it change? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But while we often cast aspersions at the car dealers and the car salespeople, just remember the alternative is much worse. That's it for this time, everybody. We'll see you next time.